What is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another video. Today we are checking out exploring the SCP Foundation, the Scarlet King. Now this was a request, it's been requested quite a few times actually, the Scarlet King. So yeah, I'm going to check it out today. This video is from the Exploring series. Very intrigued to know what is going on. I've seen a few things in the comments, but you know, I couldn't really make sense of anything. So yeah, this should be very, very interesting. Shout out to all the new subs that are coming. I think we've surpassed 900 as I'm filming this. So yeah, thank you to all the new subs and all the old subs, man. Be sure to give me any suggestions you'd like me to watch in the comments below. Also, one thing, I've had a few requests in the past few weeks to do more content so people can get to know me. So if anyone would be interested in a 50 facts video or something like that, I think I'm going to do one of those just because some people want to get to know me better. Also, I want to stream, and I know I say this all the time, but I'm thinking maybe I could stream that SCP containment breach or whatever it is. We'll see. I definitely want to stream it. Whether it will be on Twitch or YouTube is another question, really and truly. But if you want the latest updates on streaming, join our Discord. So yeah, let's get into this video and learn all about the Scarlet King. Why does the light always get so messed up? Anyway.
The Scarlet King. Extraterrestrial and extra-dimensional threats border on the commonplace in the SCP universe. And the SCP Foundation spends a great amount of time, effort, and resources containing, or at least preventing, these threats from wiping out our existence. There are entities within the SCP universe that we would liken to gods, some of them contained by the Foundation, and some of them not. But one of the most mysterious and potentially world-threatening is the Scarlet King. The Scarlet King is one of the older concepts on the SCP wiki, but is one largely wrapped up in an air of mystery, with hints of his true nature spread across the site. Due to the lack of canon within the SCP universe, ultimately the Scarlet King is whatever you believe him to be, but I'll go over some of the myths and perspectives related to this eldritch figure. To begin with, we have to go back to where it started.
Image removed by order of 05 blank. Okay. Okay, buddy. Okay.
With SCP-231. On the surface, SCP-231 is a young girl, designated 231-7, who is pregnant with some sort of entity. Her and 6 other young girls were found in a police raid on an organization that called itself the Children of the Scarlet King.
Bitch.
Each of the girls were pregnant, and 24 hours after the raid, one of the girls went into labor, giving birth to something unknown, which caused hundreds of casualties. The Foundation took over, containing the other 6
mercy.
girls, but despite...
You know, we haven't seen imagery like this since the Demon Kulaba. And man, that shit was fucked up. I've actually just broke my glasses, ladies and gents. Like, what is this? For fuck's sake. It's not the first thing I've broke during a video. Probably won't be the last. Yeah, as I was saying before I broke my glasses, this imagery, we haven't seen this since like Demon Kulaba, bro. If you haven't seen that video, I would not recommend it, but still.
Despite their best efforts, each of them expelled increasingly dangerous and horrific entities, the girls dying in the process. Now, only SCP-231-7 remains, and it's the Foundation's belief that if she ever gives birth to whatever's inside of her, it would result in the end of the world. Thus, they instituted daily administrations of Procedure 110 Montauk, believed to be one of the most horrific and cruel processes the Foundation has ever concocted. What it actually is largely a complete mystery, but there are some clues in the documentation. Procedure is performed only by D-class personnel, but specifically non-violent criminals to avoid any of them accidentally killing 231-7. The girl has to be awake and aware of the procedure, and other personnel assigned to the project are routinely swapped out due to the psychological stress, with many of them given memory-wiping amnestics to forget what they've witnessed. Additionally, 231-7's memory is also routinely wiped in order to prevent her from becoming accustomed to the procedure, as it seems it must be continually horrifying in order to prevent labor.
Okay, so let me just do a quick recap to make sure I'm following this. So there were 7 girls they found, all of them pregnant. 6 of them had their child or whatever. I mean, and by that imagery, it just looked like they exploded out of their stomach, killed them, and released some kind of horrific demon or entity or whatever onto the planet. And they believe that number 7, the only one who hasn't had the child, is got the worst of the worst. And once she has this child, the world will end. So they actively do procedures to make sure she doesn't have the child. And then they wipe their memories and the D-Class personnel's memories, so therefore no one knows about it. And she doesn't have to go through the same shit every day, although she does actually have to go through it every day.
A great amount of discussion has gone on about Procedure 110 Montauk, but ultimately
I hope it wasn't lagging up to this point.
It's left up to your darkest imagination. A popular tale, Fear Alone, describes a researcher newly transferred to SCP-231, and discovers that Procedure 110 Montauk is not some brutal action inflicted on a child, but is instead a D-Class reading a bedtime story to a young girl. The researcher is perplexed, but another doctor reveals that they had carried out horrible actions on the other girls, but it ultimately failed. They instead realized that more important than doing the actions was people believing the actions were being done. The old gods, in this case the Scarlet King, cannot see our reality the same way that we can, so they cannot witness the actions done to SCP-231, but the Scarlet King can sense fear. If enough people believe that Procedure 110 Montauk is some monstrous crime done to a child, the fear carried by those people will satiate the Scarlet King. Again, there's no canon, so you can accept this perspective or not.
So this perspective is saying that the Scarlet King is like a chaos god from Warhammer, and like, if people believe it, it's true in this realm that he lives in, like the Immaterium. That's fucked up.
Another tale, New Job, gives a slightly different perspective on 231 and their offspring. This tale describes how, when the Foundation first secured the pregnant girls, they also recovered some notebooks written by the priests of the cult of the Scarlet King. These writings made it clear that if all 7 girls gave birth, some sort of apocalypse would occur, presumably involving the Scarlet King. Additionally, the writings also contain detailed instructions on how to carry out Procedure 110 Montauk, which is the only way to prevent a birth. The Foundation found this suspiciously convenient, as a cult hell-bent on bringing about this apocalypse would have no reason to possess a ritual to prevent it.
That's very true.
Further research on the Foundation's part led them to believe that these girls were connected to the 7 brides of the Scarlet King, and that the 7th girl was not like the rest. Rather than giving birth to monsters like the other brides, the 7th gave birth to heroes opposed to the king. The O5 Council ultimately decided to accept this belief, and allowed SCP-231-7 to give birth. The result was SCP-999.
Oh, for fuck's sake. That's hilarious. Alright, we've been on a video on Cuddle Boy. What's he called? Tickle Monster. So yeah. So she gave birth to this. Okay. So the other 7 would be monster. The other 6 are monsters, and the 7th is the hero that stops the monsters. And that's why they tried to stop the girl from giving birth. Alright? Okay.
SCP-999 can generally be considered one of the nicest and most benevolent of these sentient SCPs. An amorphous mass of gelatinous slime that playfully bounces around to give hugs to people, especially those that are unhappy or hurt. Contact with SCP-999 causes an immediate euphoria, capable of curing even the most crippling depression. And SCP-999 will also risk itself to protect or rescue others. The tale explains that SCP-999 is the only entity capable of overthrowing the Scarlet King, although it is currently only a child and will need time to grow to its full strength. The myth of Procedure 110 Montauk is perpetuated in order to fool the cult of the Scarlet King into thinking the Foundation is playing into their hands. But eventually, a battle will commence between 999 and the Scarlet King. If you believe this tale, at least. But these SCPs and tales don't really...
Of the first 2, of the 2 he just said, honestly, the first one's more believable. The second one is just a bit crazy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, that Ditto from Pokemon, that's orange and likes to cuddle people, is gonna defeat the Scarlet King. This seems a bit out there, you know what I mean? It does. The first one, that they're trying to prevent the girl actively from giving birth to this horrific apocalyptic monster. That one sounds more SCP-like to me.
They give us a good idea of what the Scarlet King is. For a decent perspective, we can look at the tale titled Dust and Blood. The story speaks of the earliest times when the Elder Gods were first formed out of the darkness. One of these was named Karoud, and he differed from the others by being cursed with awareness of his existence. And existence was pain. Angered by this awareness of pain, Karoud decided that it would be better if he didn't exist, and more so, if nothing existed. Karoud began feeding on the other gods, growing greater and stronger as he consumed them, but so did his pain and hate grow stronger as well. In time, Karoud consumed or subjugated all the Elder Gods that didn't flee from him, and he became king of the darkness below. The area beyond his kingdom, the worlds of creation, went to war with Karoud and his servants, which still continues to this day. Karoud took a wife, becoming known as the Scarlet King in the process, and had 7 daughters with her. These 7 daughters became his 7 brides, and he placed 7 seals on them so that they would never die. These brides had children of their own, monstrous creations that served the Scarlet King. The tale implies that SCP-682, one of the most dangerous and fearsome entities held by the Foundation, is a child of the 4th bride. Differing from the rest, however, the 7th bride was not utterly broken by the Scarlet King, and instead gave birth to heroes that walked on 2 legs and fought to overthrow the Scarlet King. Ultimately, however, the Scarlet King and his servants have continued their conquests, defeating any challengers, and will presumably one day destroy all of creation. When We Came Home, written by the same author as Dust and Blood, tells of the final battle against the Scarlet King, when 7 warriors carrying 7 sacred spears managed to kill the king and cast his body back into the abyss, restoring creation in the process. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention SCP-2317.
So that theory is basically stating that this guy had a wife when he was having this eternal war, whatever he was having. He had a wife, then he had 7 daughters, and then he made them immortal, and whatever they gave birth to, 6 of them gave birth to these evil entities, like SCP, the Lizard Boy, was it 631 or 624, whatever the hell the Lizard Boy is. That one, and then he and those guys fight together to take over the world, but the last daughter, who he didn't corrupt, or wasn't corrupted by him, gives birth to heroes. And then it's saying the final battle was Scarlet King and the other ones versus 7 heroes. Okay.
An entity that many perceive to be at the very least related to the Scarlet King. The author of the skip, Dr. Clef, has said that it was not written to be related to the Scarlet King, merely reminiscent of it and SCP-231. But it's open enough for people to choose to believe what they wish. SCP-2317 is a massive, primeval entity located in an alternate universe, and known to be a devourer of worlds.
Just to say, has anyone ever watched that show Primeval? Where like they go back in time, like they have portals and like dinosaurs come through and they have to send them back. Yeah, that show was alright for a while, then it got really trash. I didn't watch it. I mean, I don't know if it was just a UK-based show as well, by the way, so yeah.
This entity was a grave threat, and was finally captured by an order of mystics, who crafted 7 chains from the bones and sinews of the Devourer's 7th bride. 6 of these chains are currently broken, with the 7th likely to break within the next few decades. The Foundation has no means of fixing the chains, and no means of preventing the Devourer from entering our world once freed. A fake ritual was created by the Foundation leadership in order to suppress fears that they cannot contain the entity. This ritual incorporates various religious elements, as well as phrases related to the Scarlet King. As this ritual is fabricated, there's no real evidence that 2317 has any connection to the Scarlet King, but a popular theory connects the 7 chains to the 7 girls from SCP-231, and when the 7th girl gives birth, the final chain will be broken. Finally, there is Tufto's proposal for SCP-0.
So that one is, there's a monster, and each girl when she gives birth, one of the chains break. And once all 7 give birth, it gets released and it destroys worlds. That's intriguing, that one.
01, titled The Scarlet King. The proposal describes the King as a largely unknown entity that exists in a number of dimensions simultaneously, but for whatever reason is unable to enter the prime dimension, that is, our dimension. The Foundation believes that the Scarlet King has been attempting to break into our dimension for hundreds of years, and if it ever succeeds, will cause a drastic alteration of reality or eradication of human life.
Warp storms.
Despite this threat, however, the Scarlet King is given the object class of safe, and the description states that containment is unnecessary. The reason for this, of course, forms the bulk of the proposal, and is a bit more complicated than an average skip. The proposal also mentions SCP-231-7, and that high-ranking personnel are to be informed that it is in fact the Scarlet King, although the truth of that statement is unknown and likely dubious. The remainder of the proposal consists of a large number of lengthy documents and interviews, and I won't take up time going through them individually. To summarize, the proposal is focused around Dr. Robert Montauk, the project lead on SCP-231, 231-7, and the Scarlet King. Montauk has been working on studying the Scarlet King for decades, and has come no closer to truly understanding what it is.
Wow.
Montauk begins interviewing the leader of the cult that the SCP-231 girls come from, who turns out to be a fairly cryptic individual.
So he's wasted his life, basically. That's what you're telling me.
One notable thing he mentions, however, is that there are 3 laws which must be understood in order to understand the Scarlet King.
Why has he got
The
tentacles?
law of blood, the law of concrete, and the law of howling. The law of blood was enacted by the Scarlet King, and it represents his rule, filled with hatred, cruelty, and an iron will. It is the old way of things, armies of slaves, blood rights, and chaos amidst order. The law of concrete is the inverse, modern civilization, where everything must be studied and understood so that it can be described, categorized, and filed away. The law of howling is the tension and clashing between these two opposites, and it is here that the Scarlet King takes form. The Scarlet King is ultimately an idea, but the tension between the pre-modern and the modern, the difference between the accepted and the understood, is what allows him to exist. Perhaps most interestingly is that the SCP Foundation itself is what caused this to happen, as the Foundation's drive to understand and categorize everything, in this case the Scarlet King, created the tension between what was previously just accepted, and so they created the Scarlet King. If SCP-231-7 gave birth, it would allow the Scarlet King to enter our dimension, and so Procedure 110 Montauk exists. Interestingly, the specifics of the procedure don't actually matter, so much as the fact that the procedure was created not out of scientific understanding, but out of hate and rage from Dr. Montauk. Dr. Montauk believed that the Scarlet King had taken his brother from him, and so he devised the procedure specifically to hurt the king, and that's why it works, because it follows the law of blood and not the law of concrete. The lessening of tension between the two prevents 231-7 from giving birth, and so the SCP Foundation has decided to change the classification of the Scarlet King to safe, and attempt to not worry as much about understanding and classifying the entity. In a twist on standard operating procedures, not understanding this anomaly is actually safer than understanding it. Ultimately, however, Dr. Montauk leaves the Foundation and joins the cult of the Scarlet King, as he saw the Foundation as a group of hollow men lacking a path, and he would rather take the wrong path than no path at all. If this proposal sounds complicated...
Well, Dr. Montauk, or whatever his name is insane. He's crazy. He's just crazy. We've confirmed that he is crazy, so, you know, that doesn't really make sense.
That's because, well, it is. And it's likely I've misinterpreted some part of it, so I suggest reading it for yourself. So, none of this really explains what the Scarlet King looks like, or how he'll devour our world or dimension, but that's part of the point. The mystery and ambiguity of a terrible godlike entity goes back to Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, and the Scarlet King is no different. Whether you think the Scarlet King is a human-like crimson entity, a massive whale, or something less tangible like an idea, the point remains that the Scarlet King is something deeply opposed to our current existence.
Is there a quote? Read the quote for yourself. You can pause the video. Okay, so that was very intriguing. So the Scarlet King, like I said, probably the most heavily requested SCP or thing to watch I've had. From what I gather, like, he kind of resembles a Chaos God from Warhammer, in the sense that the more you believe in him and more you try to understand where he comes from, the more powerful he gets and the more dangerous he is. If the whole world was ignorant and didn't know of his existence, he would lose power and he just wouldn't have any ability to come into your dimension or whatever. But he can't come into the dimension. So I guess if you watched the Warhammer series that I've reacted to, you'd understand that the Chaos Gods, the Emperor tried to suppress knowledge of the Chaos Gods, and maybe this is the reason why. The more people that know, the more powerful they get. And the Foundation plays right into the hands of that because they want to investigate and understand every single SCP they find. And as a result of this, they give the Scarlet King more power. In terms of the theories that was mentioned, most of them are pretty cool, I think. I don't really have too many gripes with any of them. The only one I just think is a bit silly is the one that SCP-999, Tickle Monster or whatever, is the son of or is going to defeat the Scarlet King. That one is a bit far-fetched. The other ones are quite dark and quite SCP, norm for me. I would agree with some of those. But yeah, man, you guys let me know. What do you think about the Scarlet King? What's your favorite theory? With the SCP universe, like, we cover pretty much every video. There is no set in stone law, really, on a lot of these concepts. It's really what you think it is. So yeah, let me know what your favorite theory is, man. Suggest me some videos, subscribe, and I'll see you all